Hey, this is Notser, and we're in the Tier 8 Premium French Destroyer, Le Terrible, on the map Two Brothers. This is version 2.0 of the ship. They changed out the torpedoes. They're 8-kilometer range, faster torpedo rearm. They improved the base reload by 1 second, so now it's 6 seconds versus 7. They also removed smoke completely from the ship. And as you can see, it is still outstanding, killing DDs with main battery reload. And yes, you can sense the frustration in the lack of finishing. I just ran out of my main battery reload module, and I had to wait on that super slow reload. Enemy torpedoes in the area, but I dropped off detection. I felt like, yeah, this is great. I'm not going to get out of here with much health loss. And then, of course, incoming shells, both ends, were down to 50% life. If I had smoke, if I had heal, I would feel less guilty, but I don't. And that's where I'm sort of just, I'm questioning the design on this particular ship. If you look at something like the Massachusetts, all of the traits align very well. It's a secondary U.S. battleship that has U.S. battleship AA, aligns very well, and it has the ability to heal itself so it could be aggressive. Very aggressive, because the heal has a faster recharge. This has a main battery reload, which allows it to be incredibly aggressive against enemy DDs who happen to pull Notsers right in front of you. Of course, the torpedoes don't hit. And this time, we do not miss out on the kill. We actually take the target out, but I have sustained more damage. And I don't know if Wargaming intends this to be the playstyle of the ship. If it intends to go snipe DDs, once all the DDs are sniped, you pretty much are going to operate very loosely as a cruiser. The reload's better. The gun angles are better. But what did I have to give up for that? I gave up any ability to disengage at all. I will always stay a full 20 seconds out in the open. I don't know if that's a fair trade. And they didn't compensate with any other defensive ability. And that's really where I feel like the ship needs something. I don't know what. It just needs something that'll allow it to be a little bit more defensive in its playstyle. Maybe it could have a short duration smoke like the Brits and only have it for disengage instead of camping in the smoke. I think what Wargaming is afraid of is that a ship like this would be encouraged to camp and smoke and to use main battery reload to snipe out targets much more effectively than it can out in the open. If it's out in the open, it's risking the ship. That's part of the reason why the guns are so awkward, especially the older version where the turret traverse was, less than ideal gun angles, and I was really only using 3, maybe 4 guns at any given window. If you want to get the most out of it, obviously you want all guns firing. Makes sense, right? And it just wasn't a part of the identity. And it still isn't a part of the identity. The torpedo systems that they added are nice, but I don't know that it's of any consequence. All it makes me do is wonder why, because this feels like it should have a very similar identity to the Soviet destroyer line, especially the destroyer line, the main destroyer line, where the torpedoes, for most of them, they're basically meaningless existence. You shouldn't consider that they are even on the ship. They have such low range, 4 kilometers. At 7 kilometers, with my concealment, and then 8 kilometers with the torpedoes, I could theoretically use them and stay concealed. Unfortunately, they only have 6 total per side. 6 torpedoes is not a lot of damage. I know that's very French, and I can respect that, but it just feels like something is missing here. Either reintroduce smoke, maybe short duration, introduce heal in some form, or maybe even introduce slightly better concealment. So it's not 7.1, because 7.1 is basically the best concealment you can get on Soviet DDs. Why is it equal to Soviet DDs? This doesn't make any sense to me. The guns are harder to hit the target. They don't have the same gun velocity. It's a much bigger ship, I feel. Maybe I'm misreading it. You know, if we compare it to the Kiev. And the Kiev has the ability to equip smoke, which allows it to disengage. This cannot. The only difference is the main battery reload, and honestly, the main battery reload is only incredibly powerful for one thing, sniping DDs. If I use it against an enemy battleship, for instance, this enemy Roma, I'm not going to do much damage because the Roma has a ton of armor that's just out of reach of my 139mm high explosive. Everything shatters on the deck, everything shatters on the nose, everything shatters. But I'm attempting to stop these guys from getting over to the objective. That's one fantastic trait of the ship. It is incredibly fast. The fastest I have seen the ship with speed boost is 53.8 knots in the water. That's outstanding. They fixed the bug that displayed it as, I think, 48.9 or 49.9, something like that. So you will actually have a verified speed. I believe it was reaching the 53s and the 52s before, it just wasn't displayed correctly. But as you can see, a ton of shatters on the target. We set the fire on the enemy target, and I'm going to try and attempt to use my torpedoes against Scharnhorst, who is, of course, going to have his aircraft scout right on top of it. But I have to rely on the island system to disengage. I cannot rely on my ability to smoke or the heal. I'm just trying to slow the enemy down. And it feels very underwhelming. This identity, it's not as concrete as something like the Massachusetts. And I think it needs to be, because this is probably going to be the blueprint for the French DDs. I understand that Wargaming wants them to have their own trait of main battery to the other French and anyone else who's getting it. But I just feel like the main battery in this instance is probably the reason it's so bad. And I don't think that main battery reload is good enough to have a ship this bad. It's a tier 8, and it feels like I would rather play the tier 6 of the French. The tier 6 just felt more consistent to me. It has smoke, and the reload is actually better base. The only time that this has a much improved reload is during a very, what ends up feeling gimmicky setup with the main battery reload. And as you can see, we were able to sail around the map, and I was looking to engage this enemy lightning that was retreating from my teammates. I did not want to engage that Scharnhorst. I am hoping to use my speed, but look how much I have to cover distance before he is ever even spotted. And this brings me up to my last point. 7.1 kilometers is the maximum concealment. With commander skill, with module, with camouflage. That's terrible. That's Soviet DD levels of bad, and that's Soviet high tier levels of bad, but it doesn't get a heal, it doesn't get smoke, it doesn't get a defensive skill. It has to deal with the fact that main battery reload is incredibly powerful. Way too powerful. 75% faster reload is ridiculous. It looks ridiculous. Any DD that's going up against it feels incredibly unfortunate, because they have no chance of disengaging in that very small window. That's the only reason why this ship feels so bad. It has to feel bad in all other aspects because the main battery reload is so overpowered in its one function. I would much prefer Wargaming nerfs the main battery reload to maybe 50%. I don't think they want to do that. I think they want it to feel very different from the other French main battery reload, but I think for a quality of life, it needs to feel like 50% and then give back either a heal, smoke, or slightly improve the concealment. I just feel like you're putting a lot of eggs in one little basket, Wargaming, and it's really good at that one little basket, but it's awful at everything else. So, yeah, I can't recommend the ship. I can't recommend it yet. It needs improvement. It needs playability improvement. And I don't want it to be another gimmick. I don't want it to be introducing something completely new. I just want the ship to feel a little more comfortable to play. And that's it. I'm not asking for a lot. I just want it to feel a little less all in. I hope that this was interesting. I know there are people who don't care about this ship, and yes, we killed 3 ships, we sniped them. It's all because of the main battery against the DDs, but against everything else, it feels really weird. I hope this was helpful. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.